Welcome tonight's Clickcast. Get comfortable, kick off your shoes. Our broadcast journey, we're here to amuse. Watch this week's our broadcast delight. Dive into discussions, photography insight. Welcome tonight's Clickcast. Welcome
Hi, welcome
tonight's
to another
Clickcast.
Clickcast. Thanks again for joining us tonight. This is just an informal chat with these three guys who I'm sure you've met by now. So we've got Jan Smith, and we've got Brian Nicholson, and we've got one of the original members of Clickcast, of course, Glads Yelland. So thanks for joining us tonight, guys. We're just going to go over a few things. So it's going to be a bit informal, bit of chat, some opinions, etc. And also some stupid questions which these guys don't know about yet. So, first and foremost, what have you been up to this week? We'll go to Jan, since you're the first one at the top there. What have you been up to?
Photography wise, I've just been to Turkey.
Nice,
So,
yeah.
cultural tour in Turkey. So I'm hoping that I'm cultured by now, which is not. But kidding aside, I did enjoy the trip. It was more photographing some of the historical places that you can actually find in the Bible, written in the Bible. So the likes of Santos, Ephesus, really, mind-boggling Roman and Greek cities, and it was good. And I think I would have wanted to. There are times when you're traveling, the one thing that you cannot actually, and especially if you're traveling in a group and you're not driving yourself, when it comes to photography, you then experience the whole process of saying, oh my God, I would have wanted to actually stay there and take a photo of of this angle. But then because everyone then is saying, come on, let's go because we need to get to the next place, it becomes like more of stand there, take a shot, and then run. So, but it's a good experience.
Yeah, definitely. And especially quite interesting you mentioned about the Bible there as well. In regards to the photography aspect. I like that. I really do. I'd like anything to do with history attached to any type of subject in photography. It gives it more depth and interest. What about yourself, Brian? What have you been up to this week?
Well, basically, for people who don't know, living in Pennycook, we're at the foot of the Petland Hills and we're quite high up. So we got a huge dump of snow, which was rather pleasing, something a bit different. So basically on Friday, I just went out for a walk. I was out from sunrise to sunset in the snow. It was great. I got some good shots. I'm really happy with them, the way that the sun was lighting up. But I got a nice wee treat at the end of the day. I was standing at a location that, when I had my interview, we had the line of trees up that got that recognition in the Scottish landscape photographer. So I thought I'm going to go back there because I could see, being out all day, that the skies were clear. And I thought we might get some beautiful hues behind the trees. So I thought I'm going to walk up to there. It was an extra 3 miles to walk to get to it. Anyway, I got there and we set up in plenty of time. And here there was initially 2 deer came out from the woods just to the right-hand side. And they stood and just looked at. It was like they were looking at me. They were literally looking at me. So I was it was like a nice reward at the end of the day. So I done about a 7 or 8, I can't remember, vertical pano, and they stayed there long enough to be included in that panoramic image that I got. It was just amazing, just to see them. So
what I'll do, Brian, is when I'm editing this, I will put that image up with your permission. You right with that?
Yeah, no problem. Well, I mean, we've got 2. There's the panel, but what I took an image later where it's just effectively it's like a 4:3 aspect ratio, because it's just at the very edge of that line of trees that you don't see in the panel composition, because it's got the basically you've got the fence where it leads into the woodlands where they were coming from, and it's just standing, almost hiding behind one of the trees, but just looking at me. It's a really quite an unusual photograph. But that's the thing, that's what I love about photography, and most of us will know it. Just putting yourself out there, being there. That's when you see these things happen, and you're there to appreciate it. So yeah, it was great, and I had a lazy day on Saturday because I'd been out on my feet all day. I don't know how many miles I covered. I'm guessing maybe 9, but it may have been more. But it was walking in the snow, as you know, is pretty tough. But my legs felt like I'd run a marathon. My days of running marathons the following day.
So I gather you pretty much got home and sat down, and that was you. You didn't get back up again.
That was it. I made a curry.
I know what it's like. Sorry, Glads, what about yourself? What have you been up to this week, Glads?
I went to London. I went to the East End.
Yeah, I did see your pictures too.
I went to Brick Lane and Shoreditch, and I took quite a lot of photos of all the graffiti artists' work in Brick Lane and Shoreditch. It was amazing, and I had quite a few Banksy shots that I took.
I will put these images up too. I also
had Shepherd as well, which is a really famous graffiti photographer and graffiti artist. He's basically known for doing 3D. What's interesting, what I find interesting, is one of his images, graffitis that he did, you couldn't see it 3D unless you looked behind the camera or took a photo of it. But I was the only one that could actually see it. But I think it's because I'm slightly dyslexic. So it was interesting to see that some of the people in my group couldn't see it except me.
Yeah.
And also I met the guy called Mr. Broccoli. You know why? You know why his name's Mr. Broccoli?
No.
Basically, because he sticks broccoli on the wall. And the reason he realized he couldn't stick broccoli, so he changed it and created like a mold to be able to stick it. And the reason why was because when Brexit came, he was so upset about Brexit happening that what he did a symbol where they said apparently Spain had said, if we're going to go through Brexit, you need to sign this for England. Yeah. If you don't, we're going to take the broccoli away from you. Because apparently our main producer is the broccoli from Spain. So that's why the symbol of broccoli came about in his artwork. But it was really cool. I met quite a lot of you. I met him in his studio and took some photos of him in his studio. Yeah. And it was just pretty cool just going around London and looking at all the graffiti artists, and just the amount of East End artists that are there is just incredible.
And it was old London you were in it? You were in the old part of London?
Old London, Whitechapel, around Whitechapel area.
That's interesting, yeah. Certainly as well, because the streets are narrow, and I've seen the images you got up, and the little narrow streets. It kind of put me in mind of York a little bit, similar. Not York, you've got the Shambles, which, it's the buildings, but the street layout looked like York.
Yes, it does. The old London does, yeah. And what's amazing about it is the history, and the buildings are just incredible. And, the history of Jack the Ripper. And one of the pubs we went to was where a lot of the prostitutes that were victims of Jack the Ripper used to go to. So it's just amazing. You really see the real London in the East End.
I'm really interested in the history of London. Goes back. I mean, it's like Edinburgh, it's the old town, but I mean, I love history all along, but just to visit these places and just discover, which things you never learn at school, you kind of find out later on in life. It's so refreshing. Guys, I'm just going to go for a couple of questions on what each one of you, if you're okay with it, and if you don't like the question, just tell me.
Wait a minute, can I just quickly say, what have you been up to?
Myself? I don't like talking about myself too much. I was today, a day off today, so quite happy, but I've been off since Friday, and I've been down your way, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be taking pictures on your way as well. No, mainly I've been down to just past Pennycook, going towards the borders, and I thought it'd be a nice idea because the snow kind of landed down that way. Around Edinburgh, there's no snow at all, so I had to go a little bit further out. And when I was coming down to visit you that time, we'd done that video together. I enjoyed coming down to see the compositions you were looking, show me, etc. around the place, and you took me to couple of locations. So I opted to go to the place that we went last. You probably noticed in the video.
Yeah.
And it was caked in snow. It was amazing. The trees were all white. It was like so much like a fairy tale kind of moment. Walking through these trees, and I put my foot into boggy land. I couldn't see it because the snow was covered. At one point, I was up to my shin in mud. Didn't fall over though, which is okay.
Mhm.
Not like me, okay. But yeah, we tried to film it. It was an absolute nightmare when I was doing the vlog. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. I've kind of been editing videos over for the weekend as well, because obviously doing the video for Matt and also doing the video for myself. So
Mhm.
I kind of takes a lot of time up doing all the editing part. It's so worth it, but to see the finishing result, if it pays
Mhm.
off well. And some things, sometimes you don't get right. As you guys know, I had to pull a video back because Brian noticed there was my logo going over Matt's video when he was talking, when he was actually talking about the scene. And I was like, oh, shit. So, yeah. Anyway, that got sorted out, put back on again. That's what I've been up to.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. This first question. Now, this is something that's dear to me, because I'm quite concerned about the photography community. Talked about AI in the last few videos, and I think we've kind of explored about AI quite a lot in these videos for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And, I'm not going to go into much of that, but what I'm going to ask is, and it's going to ask, let's say we'll go to Glads first. So, Glads, where do you see photography in the next 10 years? And would you, of course, still be taking pictures in the next 10 years? Now, what I mean by that is, in the backdrop, what's going on and how technology is moving so fast, where do you actually see photography? Do you feel that there's space in photographers to grow still? What do you see
Yes,
yourself, or would you see yourself also?
as a technologist, put my technology head. I think photography, there is a space for photography. I think it'll be very much like, when you buy handmade products, like handmade soaps and local areas and things, I think it'll be very much like that. And in some ways, it'll make it a little bit more prestige because it's been created by a human being, then instead of being created by machinery. I also see that with photography, there's a possibility we could use holograms. So we could project photos in a 3D format, in a kind
Yeah,
of
that sounds amazing.
hologram format, like they do with advertising. You see some of the advertising they see in China.
Mhm.
I think it'll be interesting the way photos could be laid out in galleries or make it more immense. Like, for example, when you see Van Gogh's, did anyone go to the Van Gogh gallery when they did the visual experience of it? I think you could do visual experience the same with photography, with street landscapes, and make it feel more real. So you immerse into it,
Yeah.
but more
Yeah.
in a hologram format or visual format. I don't think photography will die. I think photography will be formed as a history. For example, people will still be documenting themselves, their families. I can't see it changing really in that aspect.
Yeah, certainly
I
a
just think,
journalistic sense. That'll still be
yeah,
alive.
I think the only thing that will change will be the devices that we use, and maybe the way we edit as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think sometimes as well, if when it comes to different platforms of editing, maybe a point where, in a mirrorless camera, you could do some editing in a camera already, and it
Yeah,
will go that way, I think, where you can actually probably address the white balance a bit quicker, maybe doing a bit of changing the exposure in camera, etc. So you can actually post-process slightly, probably with basic adjustments, like global adjustments, etc.
Mhm.
Um, hmm. Brian, you?
I also think there's a possibility that
Sorry?
cameras will be smaller and maybe even
Hmm.
devices on watches. So if you want to take a photo instead of having the mobile phone, you will take it on devices like a watch or even through glasses. I
Yeah,
think there's going to be a lot of possibilities.
that'll be something. That'll be something. And I think there'll be a lot of privacy issues with someone wearing glasses coming into a shop or taking pictures, or someone walking about with his glasses on and thinking, I'm going to sit down and get a good composition of someone and wear your glasses. This looks odd, but we're in the 21st century, which is kind of odd sometimes, can it be, I suppose. Brian, what do you think? I mean, just what Glad said, that's real interesting what you said about things getting smaller. Also,
Mhm.
appliances like glasses, etc. I can see things happening very fast in technology because technology has picked up in the last 20 years so fast. Where do you see photography in the next 10 years? And would you still be taking pictures in 10 years, etc. yourself, or what would you be doing?
Well, I think I certainly want to believe it will be here. I'll make my effort to make it still be here from where I am, because as you know, I've got a following on Facebook who love seeing Scotland, my area, nature,
Mhm.
you know, the landscape, the woodlands. So people want to see and be hearing the story from somebody who actually had that experience and is sharing it with them. And I think that's where photography will still be here, well into the future, not even 10 years in my eyes, because, you know, we touched on it, what Matthew had said, didn't we, about it? It's about the human element, being out in nature, being able to convey that feeling, that emotion. So I think it will always be there. How we might be taking those images, yeah, it could be different. I've got a mirrorless camera, as you've mentioned, and I've tested it. I've gone into in a JPEG format. What you can do, you can actually change the white balance. I've got Kelvin temperature I can change. You know, I can go into the style, they call it a profile, my standard profile or neutral, but I can go into neutral and I can then change the highlights, the shadows, the contrast, the fade. And I've tested it, and it comes out the camera, and I can see that's the benefit. You get a lot of, you know, people are quick shooter sports photographers. They I think pretty much shoot JPEG all the time. But so yeah, you're probably right. I think technology, Gladys, will most definitely be the change. But I firmly believe that, you know, as long as I know that I'm going to be taking photos, I'm not going to ever look at AI. Yeah, the tools in Lightroom, yeah, some of the you know, the noise reduction is effectively AI, but I think using the AI tools appropriately, but not to manipulate an image to put something in that wasn't there, or change a sky or something that's not, you know, if it's maybe taking a bit noisy out an image, I'm cool with that, because all you're trying to do is to portray what you saw as best you can, without making it false. But I do know that there is a lot of these things out there, but you know, it's all down to your own digital interpretation and creativity. But
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
but that's where I stand. I think it's all us as photographers across the world. It's up to us to make sure that photography has a place in the future. Don't let AI take over, and I can't ever see that will be, because there's too many creators out there now, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew did point on, he sees, you know, obviously AI having its place, like people just using our cameras. There's a point, the human element, as you mentioned as well, Brian, what, you know, Matthew says, and I think you get, you know, you're actually getting up early in the morning, you're climbing, you know, however to get a, you know, to get like a good composition or good vantage point, and all these things that all the hard work you do to get that image is a story, and it's a story that you've actually created yourself. You've put that work into it. With an
You
AI
have to
image,
realize, Paul, you have to realize that we've got drones as well. Drones can take you to the highest point and take that image. So in some ways, it's no difference really.
No, it's not. No.
The other thing I'm just starting to do as well is just to add to my knowledge, or call it skills, in photography. And you know, recently I've just done a very quick audio visual that I'm planning on now, because even today, just once I've done it, I got that spark of thought, thinking what I might do periodically for my photography page. I'll do a series of stills, I'll put it into an AV, I'll have some background music, and I'll talk through a bit commentary through the images and the scene. And in some ways, I think, you know, I'm starting to do wee videos with my phone when I'm out, and that's giving those people more of that engagement, understanding what I'm seeing as a photographer, what I'm feeling. And I think using AV is another good mechanism to, you know, to further, you know, and give those people that enhanced view of what we are seeing as creators in nature.
Yeah, I'll get back to that in a minute. I want to go into Jan now, because Jan, with yourself, you know, Jan does a lot of different types of photography and genres. You know, you're not exactly one particular, you know, what one type of genre you do. You do different types, like street. You do landscape. You do macro as well. I've seen things like close up of flowers, etc. Really nice shots. Same again, just the same thing I've asked the rest of the couple of guys there. Where do you see photography in the next 10 years? And would you still be
Well,
doing photography the next 10 years on?
yeah, for me, as long as people wants to see or document what they see and what they experience, what they, the joy of taking, a photo of a nephew or a couple or a friend, etc. Photography as means of documenting everyday life and relationships and all those things.
Yeah.
In that sense, photography lives forever because everyone wants to take a photo. Everyone wants. How did Instagram actually rise to the level that it is now as a business? Is because of people posting their photos. The I don't think whether there is an advent of AI. I do agree with Glads that we might be using different equipments might be more advanced, or some people, as we know, there are trends in technology. There's a lot of people who don't like much the digitalization very much of photography. They like the film, they like the old style cameras because it captures no one says better. So others like the clear and clean images that mirrorless produce. So
Yeah.
the human factor is always present, and it's the human factor that actually determines where it goes. Because there are things like sports photography, which I indulge as well. You cannot have AI produce the images. You need to create. You need to actually capture those images, because when we think about it, AI enhances what we capture. It doesn't actually it has to have an input. Without an input, there's not going to be an output to it. So for me, photography will remain, but how the manner that we take it, the manner that we document our everyday lives, the way we capture images will change, but the essence of why we take photos will remain, either because we want to monetize it, we want to just enjoy it as a hobby, or we wanted to create something, an art. It's still determined by the individuals, and as long as the individuals actually continues to want to document their lives, to show people the things that they've seen, photography will remain forever.
Yeah. Amen to that. That's a
And I
good
also
point.
think
Yeah,
it's the way you market it as well. The way you market it will be different as well, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think when there's a lot of that kind of thing where you can go back and use older cameras, you can take up hobbies, you can try different formats of photography as well. You see guys like who, is it Ben Horn? Have you heard of Ben Horn? Anyone?
Yeah.
Ben Horn's also uses an old-fashioned, what's the type? Is it a full frame? Not a full frame,
Medium format.
medium format. Sorry, I was medium format camera, and what's quite refreshing about it, he just keeps on sticking to the same camera, same kind of principles. He's one of the nicest guys as well. I've actually seen on camera talking away. He sounds like a really nice guy. Kind of guy I like to get on this program if he would join us. But yeah, and that's kind of thing. People can gravitate more to the traditional sense of photography. So when things get a bit more kind of too, let's say, virtually too much creative with regards to AI or any kind of it's kind of post-processing overload, or we sometimes go back and we like to try, and it's happening now. People are putting noise in their images, etc. There's filters you can put noise in the image to make it look that gritty kind of film look. So that's saying to me that the new generation now are actually liking, you know, the older cameras, using the old camera kind of 35mm, whatever, or the film cameras, because when you're actually, there's a good point as well, is a digital camera will, you know, take a great perfect shot. Now, imperfections doesn't come into it because you've got all your tools now. You can use the spot removal tool, etc. But when you're taking a picture from a film camera, these little kind of like the flare of light, for example, just small things, make it look retro. Retro's good. Retro's still in fashion. And I think that's what you said, Jan, about the older cameras, people learning in like a new trade of trying to shoot and film or medium format, etc. I think that will be more the attraction, I think, going forward, and maybe possibly, I don't know, people still do it digital, but digital was going towards more post-processing. You know, you can, it doesn't take much to learn digital photography. It doesn't take
Mhm.
much, as you know. If you launch your own exposure triangle, you're fine.
Mhm.
Like, looking back to the point when you actually had a film camera, you had to really think about taking a shot because you only had a certain amount of spool or images, or if you're, you know, using like a prime lens, for example, you're using your legs to go back and forth. So there's a lot of things that, you know, a film camera, you learn a lot of skill from that shooting film.
But you had to learn like meter reading and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And also the post-processing part, well, it's not post-processing, but the processing part rather, with regards to when you're using different acids, chemicals, etc. You really need to know about the time aspect, as how long you leave it for, obviously, for it to develop. To me, that's a good thing what photographers should go into, is try doing kind of retro kind of filming, sort of film cameras, etc., and do that, going down that way. And leaving digital, you know, just digital is good. I know it's good. But I
It's still
feel if you want
more
to challenge
productive.
challenge
Yeah.
yourself, you know, give yourself a bit more to do.
I
Definitely.
used one. I did use one for a couple of months. I don't have the camera anymore, but it was just somebody that I knew had it at the time, and they gave me a loan of it, and
Yeah.
I was just using it. But and you know what it was I loved about it? It took you back to my youth when, you know, like I was saying before, that, you know, you take in 24 exposures,
Yeah.
and then you
So
get
38 in
the
a spool.
well, the ones I
The
was
other
using
spool.
were it was 24 they had, but it was a
Yeah.
black and white monochrome. But I didn't have the darkroom set up. I sent them back to a company, and it was like, you know, you got an email with a zip folder, and it was like
Oh,
that
yeah.
feeling. It was like that feeling again of, oh, look at this, or, oh my God, I've blown out
Yeah,
my
it's a win.
highlights. So,
You had to wait. Yeah. And
yeah, you
that
had
was
to
it.
wait.
It's
Wait,
like, you know, it's like opening a present up. You know,
that's right.
you went to experience these pictures on a holiday over your family, even something as, you know, something small as that. And then when you got these pictures back, you're like, wow, you know, you're like, open up and look at them, like, it was amazing, you know, as opposed to digital. You know, you just go, you take as many pictures as you want in an SD card.
Yeah.
You get it right if you really just keep on trying and trying. If you can stand there for 2 hours and take the same picture of the same subject, but with film camera, you really have to use your nut. And the thing of you're using about 38 or 27 in a spool, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no room for error, mainly the webcam. But yeah, I mean, I've tried using film and I've failed. And I'm getting better doing it, but I don't spend enough time doing it, and I think that's something I might have to remedy, is do it a bit more. But yeah, I mean, the results are amazing in the case that, you know, it's refreshing to feel like you've created everything. You know, you've done everything from the taking the picture and actually going to a lab and it's like putting the acid and then hanging it up to let it dry and let the, you know, the exposure set, instead of using sliders in a, you know, in a post-processing digital tool.
I think the you know, when it comes to photography, it's always the person behind the camera.
Oh yeah, no, that's that's
This,
fundamentally, camera's just a tool.
yeah,
I know
the
that.
person and the way you know, the tools that someone uses is basically depends on what they want to achieve. So there's
Yeah.
always that person behind it, and that person behind it defines how, you know, when you put all of these persons together all over the world, those people, then the individuals becomes a group that will influence how things are actually how things will move forward. But I think it's where the concern comes, I would say, is whether photography will still offer people an opportunity to actually make a living out of it, because
Yeah, it
that's
will.
where it's going to be.
I think it will do, but it's just a matter of how you market yourself
Mhm.
and what niche you go. And if you can create something quite creative, it's like anything. It's the same thing with films. If you create a good storyline in a good niche, like in a specific genre, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know? And it's the same thing with wedding photography. If you can stand out from any other wedding photographer, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I
It's-
think that's where the how you call this, the fear of the uncertainty that AI presents, because there is this like fear that is created and panned by by people that say, oh, it's gonna be no one will buy our photos anymore, they're just generated to AI. But I think what people don't appreciate is that AI basically takes from
humans.
images
Oh yeah, it's all the data we put
that
into. Yeah,
that
of course.
pulled together. And like I said, the way you know before, even for food, before we used to just buy any food that comes, and if it's cheap we buy it. But at the moment people are more concerned about where the food comes from, what the quality, etc., etc., and are actually prepared to pay for it. And I think you can do the same thing with photography, like
Yeah.
what said and Brian, is that if you actually create something, or you capture something that is unique, in a unique style, all on your own, there will always be a market for it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. But if you are going to produce bog standard things that everyone had seen or everyone had done to death, and exactly the same angle or whatever, then you would be lost in the chaos of all the available images that's already out there for that
Yes.
that
Yeah,
space.
I think
So,
stock photography will take a huge hit. So people like businesses, corporate, for example, looking up images for their websites. For example, someone writing about paper. You get stock images.
Mhm.
That will take a massive hit because they can easily do it from their desk now and get what they
Yeah.
want. That's the one that will suffer most. Landscape will suffer at some point. I think it will. I think it already is suffering because it's something that can be created. We did touch on this. I think we've talked about this quite often, guys, in the show.
Not,
But
not necessarily, because it depends on how you advertise it. For example, if you look at Joanna, have you heard of Joanna Ginto?
mm,
She does a lot of nature vlogs, a lot of nature photography, but she's quite unique in how she markets herself.
yeah,
And even down to the photos of the landscape, she makes it quite artistic.
Mhm.
So again, it's finding that niche.
yeah. I mean, it's like YouTube. A lot of photographers use YouTube not just because they want to be on YouTube, because they do it for workshops because they
Yeah.
can't make money.
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm doing it. That's the only reason why I'm doing it, because I've only had about 6 workshops, and that's because, well, a couple of people, to be fair, have said you've seen the YouTube, so they want to contact me, and people local, pretty much in the Lothians, or one guy from came from Bristol. But yeah, that to me, it's great. It gets you right there, and they do eventually come up. And one guy I actually taught, Stephen Nicol, I don't know if you guys seen his work. He's pretty much, he's really good at, he's kind of chosen to take up woodland photography, and it's only a year he's been doing it, and he's one of these people, when you speak to him, he just absorbs everything. But yeah, I think when it comes to the market, photographers rely on social media social media has got a double-edged sword, but because like it's kind of saturated, as well know. But when it comes to YouTube, if you're actually giving something marketing, you're talking about marketing, Glads. That's right, because YouTube itself will help you get your story across when you're taking that picture. It does get. I mean, look at Thomas Hayton and guys like that. I mean, guys who started back in 2016. These guys. Now it's only 2023, so it's quite new. So I think I can see people do more videos, and as Brian says, doing this kind of AV kind of thing, but kind of narration and kind of doing
Mhm.
through the pictures. And I think that'll work. I can see a lot of that happening. I think it already is happening quite a lot, as we know. If you go onto YouTube, you just Google or type in something like, film photography, you'll see millions of people coming up who's showing you how to work a film camera, but they'll actually go out on the field and shoot in film. So
Yeah.
I think the way forward photography is trying to give something else, not just taking a picture, is giving a story like Matthew, for example. I thought that was brilliant. He was, how he can connect his emotions, and he's not scared to actually be candid the way he talks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
You
think
can
there's
see a lot
definitely
of
forward photography.
influence. But you can see a lot of influence of Sean Tucker on Matthew. When
Yeah,
I hear
so
Matthew, I hear Sean Tucker.
he actually reminds me a little bit. Actually, when you look at him, he's got that kind of very laid back, and he's very. You can see he's very relaxed when he talks.
Mhm.
He seemed very relaxed, really nice guy, and I'd like to see him get him back on the program again, guys, with us at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think he's
I'm
a
sure
nice
he
guy.
would.
So.
He'd be happy to join us. It was good.
Yeah,
It
he
was
said
good.
that. I was speaking to him a couple of days ago, and he's like, he's really enjoyed the interview you guys done. So you haven't seen that interview, guys, I'll put a link at the end of this video. And if you get bored with us talking, just fast forward, you scroll it right up to the end, you'll see the video coming up.
I also think what's clever about Matthew is the fact that he takes his photos, animates them, and puts poetry behind it.
Yeah.
And that makes it very unique. It's a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
niche in its own right.
I mean, like Kim Grant does that in a way as well. As like, Brian's saying, the workshop she offers and getting people to connect and just stop and not think about so much taking the picture, just stop about and enjoying where they are and immersing yourself and just that's
Slow
where
down.
ideas come to you. If you stop and just listen and just
Mhm.
pick up, the nature, it's your surroundings, environment.
Yeah.
Instead of us walking up and trying to look for a picture and say, oh, you're running about. I mean, I was guilty of that. I used to do that.
Yeah, but that was just while we're on, just to dwell on that for one moment. I mean, there's just another avenue that with photography, I think will still play a part. It's playing a lot in people's mental health people's mental health and helping them.
Yeah.
So there's that matter where and I know people that's the industry they work in, and they use photography as the medium to help people with that. And similarly, with Kim Grant, for example, the trial weekend went on. That's her now launched a number of dates into 2024 for immersive photography weekends up in the
Really?
north of Scotland. And already the one in April, the weekend in April, is sold out already.
Wow.
So people will always be looking. It's not always about photography. There's photography as the driver behind it, but it's all about, mindfulness and all these other nice, good things that we've got to do to look after ourselves as well. And that's becoming more and more evident, I think, in the world now, what we've all got going on with different areas.
Yeah. I mean, I was inspired so much by Matthew that when my latest video I don't know if you watched it, but I done a little kind of narration about how I felt about winter, at the beginning and at the end. And that was because I was influenced by Matthew. And that's what I like about doing this channel. We pick up, we get influenced by other people. It's really refreshing just to speak to people and just enjoy their stories as well.
I mean, another person we could talk to as well is Peter Wands. He's a doctor.
You said that, yeah.
He went through the COVID pandemic, but he uses photography as a form of mental health. And I think Sean Tucker interviewed him at one point.
Yeah.
And his shots are brilliant. I love his Edinburgh shots.
Yeah.
But what I found fascinating is the fact that he does use it for his mental health, because being a doctor is quite intense, But it's not just mental health; it's also used for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I know that when my kids were going to primary school, there was one child, and I knew that I think he had ADHD or something. But I remember, he came to a birthday party of one of my children, and I remember I gave him a camera. and he just got immersed in it. He absolutely loved it. And he actually went into the birthday room because he was so scared going into the birthday room. He came in and he's relaxed after that. So, you know, it can be used for so many benefits and just people's mental
and
health.
well, also just maybe to extend you a wee bit further, but also just what I'm involved now as well in a local charity, Midlothian Wildflowers, because they're now starting to create new meadows and help generate things through nature, but using these things to get grants from the local councils to get money to start creating a project to engage with the young people in this world, to educate them out in the field. And I'm going to be doing one specific one if I get the funding. We've made the application where I'm going to be running it as a photography way to look at nature, wildflowers, the benefit of having the biodiversity, all that kind of stuff, and get a bunch of, we're going to put flyers out and get people engaged in it, the younger community, so they can actually see the impact it has by having these wild meadows, using their smartphones. I'll go there with my camera, show them a difference, and teach them what photography can do to link in, and it's it's just that education element of it as well.
Yeah, and that's true, because you're talking about Kim Grant, we're talking about Matthew there as well last week. Simon Baxter is he does conservation work when it comes to woodland photography. He does use a bit, and I think there's that point where if you tell a story well, you deliver a story on YouTube or things like this, for example, we're doing tonight. People enjoy that, and they get influenced in doing photography, and I think it's so weird because the people who watch these channels are people who want to learn photography. They're not there to look at their pictures. Well, they are, but they're not there to buy their pictures. They're not selling prints. You get me?
That's right.
So it's kind of more of an internal thing now, photography, Before, where you used to walk in shops, go to a gallery, for example, and say, "Oh, nice picture, look great above my mantelpiece," back in the 70s, whatever. That's kind of it's still there. There is a market there, of course.
Yeah,
there is a market.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any kind of substance to it as much as it were back in these days, in the 70s, 80s, etc.
No.
There's you've got digital frames and things now, and people can press right click on an image and save as and probably print it themselves. I've heard a lot of stories like that, actually.
Just there's another one. I was that tour with Colin Pryor, and that's what he said. He said, I make my money through he calls them photography tours.
Yeah, his workshops.
He calls them tours, but that's where he gets his revenue from. He's got his books and publications and such like, but
books as well.
He actually said to me, if he was a photographer now in this day and age, he wouldn't be a photographer, because he wouldn't want to have to do all the extra things that we now know that people have to do. A wee bit of commercial, wedding, YouTube, doing all these different things to diversify, to try and bring in as much revenue to even be able to, because it must be a hard task, I would expect, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I think one thing that these guys never get much credit. Some people say, but these guys on YouTube, they think this, they think that. No, these guys do a lot of work, and for the one video to edit it, I mean, I can take my whole weekend up just doing one video sometimes. So I don't get much time to myself doing it. Although I do love what I do, I wouldn't be doing it if it was a chore. But there is that point you feel that I wish it can go a bit faster. Can I just if you want to get it right, and if you want to put the time into it, these guys like Thomas Eaton, etc., are amazing what they do. The amount of money they put into these videos and the storytelling, the amount of planning, amazing. And these guys deserve to be on, TV, etc. Thomas Eaton did try to. I don't know if you've seen way back one of his videos where he said he done an original video production where he tried to. I don't know if it's a BBC or whatever, but he did it made for TV, but he showed it on YouTube because he didn't cut it. He didn't cut the cheese, as he said. But these guys deserve to have their own kind of show on television, because thousands, millions of people watch them weekly. But yeah, I really respect the guys that do it on YouTube, because I do it now, and I've started doing it, and I'm not cut my teeth on it yet properly. I can't imagine to get to the heights these guys got to, but these guys, I've got it. You either got it, you've not got it, and that's how it goes when it comes to YouTube as well.
I think I just want to say that there are a lot of photographers, amateur photographers, hobbyists that's around, and for me the bottom line about photography is about the person. It's about your reasons for taking the photos, and
Yeah.
and sometimes it gets lost in the process of actually, when we see images, when we see work like YouTube videos, um sometimes we forget to appreciate, like what you guys have said, the hard work that's been put on it. And at the same time, when you put YouTube videos, when you put your work out there, you are actually putting it out to, you're making yourself vulnerable to
Oh yeah.
either,
Yeah.
to anyone that will either appreciate it because it's great, but then you always have people who rips it apart. and
Yeah.
and
That's like
the
anything.
likes
Yeah.
of the likes of Gavin, the likes of um Thomas, Brandon, and Greg Snell, and those people, they they still get it. They still get it in the neck, and sometimes the criticisms actually are sometimes to the bone,
Oh yeah.
because
Yeah.
the expectations, of course, as your profile goes up, and as you're being seen as an expert, your creed, in a sense, if it's a street creed, actually goes, the higher that you are, the more expectations people put on you.
Yeah. Because
And then
there's a masses. You're actually shooting to the masses. You're actually doing videography for the masses, and they see that.
yeah,
You're right. I had one
and
guy put a comment up. We never actually put a comment on my. He sent an email to me,
mm,
and he said, I don't understand your accent. I've had it before.
mm,
I don't think you know what you're doing. Fair enough.
mm,
And yeah, I kind of left it. Didn't go back to him. Just left it.
mm.
Because it doesn't matter what you say, they're always going to say something back, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
there's always criticism, and the more your profile is, the higher your profile, the more to the bone the
oh
the the
yeah, yeah,
criticisms are. and
yeah,
and um you need to have a really, really thick skin to
yeah.
to
I've learned
to
that. Yeah, I've learned
about.
that. Yeah. Because I
Yeah,
think when I first started photography, I
photog-
used to. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
I do my photography just for the heck of it. uh what I mean, for the heck of it, because I do it as a hobby, so a way to distress. So I don't really care what people
Yeah.
say about photos, as long as I like the look of it. Kissy Hoda. I always say
The
Kissy
same.
Hoda.
It's the same with
Yeah.
me, Jan. I mean, when I'm doing these YouTube videos, I done it way back, and you guys know I had a problem with a particular photographer, who took them down, because he had
Mm,
beef with me. But that's, the thing is, what I've noticed about photography is there's so much that we're, very opinionated people, because it's not a sensitive. I don't think it's a sensitive subject, photography, is it? Let's face it. So what these people say are only talking about my photography. They're not talking about me, and they've got the right to say that. But if they start to say, use any profanity, or if they start to get a bit kind of like creepy, like the person I was telling you about there, um, I've kind of, from that experience, I've learned to shut off and just get on with it. And when I do these videos, I enjoy it. And when I do the talk to guys like you on this channel, I enjoy it. Um, Sometimes I question myself. I think, what am I doing? But I really do enjoy what I do. And if we'd kind of opened ourselves up to criticism, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. I think all of us sitting here, apart from Brian, who's not there, we can take criticism on. I think, yeah, I think we've been in the game long enough. When I say the game, I'm not talking about photography. I'm talking about social media. Social media is not a new thing now. It's been going on for a long time. People used to get offended by social media, but I think as you get older, you get thicker skin.
mhm.
Doesn't phase me anymore. Um, but as I say, I left that horrible comment I got for that guy, and didn't go back to him. I just thought, doesn't matter what I say, if I even say something back, he's still going to say something back to me. So what's the point? Yeah,
Mm.
just get on with it. You know, it's life. But Brian, I know she just went away there, getting us something, a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or something. You hear me okay?
Yep, hear you now. Yep, sorry.
So I've got hearing aids in, by the way. I don't know if you guys know. I've got 2 hearing aids now. And seriously, I've got, but they're great. They're like Bluetooth. So they are Bluetooth rather. So you can listen to music through it. I can do a call from it. It's great. And you know what? If my hearing came back, which I won't, I will still keep them in. I think absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so sometimes it kind of interferes with the mic a little bit. It's like a bit of feedback. Regards to this is something I just thought I'll just do, and it's what's the worst? Funny, they'll say not worst. The funniest thing ever happened to you in photography, and I'm going to start off with Brian.
Well,
That's
something
very
comes to
vague, I
mind.
know. Well, let's change that.
No, it's okay. I've
What's-
got I've got an answer straight away. I'm just laughing because what it was, but I can laugh now, but no at the time when it happened. But it's funny.
Yeah, go for it.
Right. Okay. Well, for me, a couple of years back, I was up at Loch Awe, well
Loch Awe, yeah.
camping by the side of Kilchurn Castle.
Yeah.
I was up for sunrise in the morning, walking all around, and it wasn't a great sunrise, but it was misty and ethereal, all the rest of it, and had my welly boots on. They were all filthy mud because it's all marshy. So I was almost back at my tent, and I literally stepped from the edge of the loch in a step to wash my boots, and I went into my knees in mud. So this in the middle of the summer. This is about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had to pull myself out. I was lucky I was at the side, but I had to just drop everything and pull myself out. My boots were left in the mud, and she tried to pull them out. but then it wasn't fun at the time. But it just makes you always aware. You've got to be very make sure where you are. If I'd been in an area away on a beach, and too far out, it'd been a different story. But it was just the side of a loch. So there was a wee story in my mind to say, it could have been different, but thankfully I was very close to the edge of the water that it didn't cause any danger to me. But I laugh at it now because if anybody was standing watching me, they'd been having a right laugh at me.
Yeah. That's definitely one of these oh no moments, as we say in Scotland. Yeah, Jan, what about you?
Well, I've got a lot of funny things to share, but one of the things that happened was I was in the Isle of Harris, so I was
Nice.
in Luskenthar beach and photographing the formation. Like there was rain out on the side. There was then a huge rainbow and all the stuff, and there were people that was actually in the beach. And one of them, as I was taking photos and on their direction, because I thought, oh, it's good to have, the people on the background. And this person started running towards me. And one thing that I didn't realize as he was coming towards me, one thing I didn't realize was he was actually completely naked. So
Really? Wow.
he was completely naked. And I was like I was taking a burst photo because, as you guys know me, I'm the queen of handheld photography. I don't use very
Tripods. Yeah.
tripods. I hate tripods. But so I was taking this photo, and this guy was just running towards me, and and I was taking photo, and Scott was laughing his head off, and I said, "Why?" And then I look back I said, "What are you doing, laughing?" And then look back into the viewfinder to take photos again, and all I could see was the guy's dangly bits actually getting really close up on my lens, and I was like, "Oh, that was."
There's a few
really-"
jokes coming off I can feel, but I can't see them.
And I just sort of said, "Oh, that's interesting," and he did say, "Oh, did you take some photos?" I said, "Yeah, I did, but it wasn't what I intended to take." And
Uh,
and
We're all
And the
bursting to say next question.
Huh?
Did you get them all
You
in?
got shot by
the
the
person?
ball.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
have the,
brilliant.
so now I've got this series of photo of someone running naked in Luskentar Beach.
That's the best one so far. Gladys, what about yourself? Give you time to compose yourself there.
When I used to do self-portraits, I used to do compositions, when I first started, and I went through a horror phase where I dressed myself into like horror pictures with makeup and
yeah.
everything. And I went to Mackenzie's, the cemetery of Greyfriars,
Greyfriars, Bloody Mackenzie, George
Bloody
Mackenzie. Yeah.
Mackenzie, yeah. And I literally posed for this picture, a self-portrait with a remote shutter. And everyone starts surrounding me, like, what are people watching? And then obviously when I was quite embarrassed, but I finished the photo, the selection of photos I wanted to take. And this lady came up to me, could I have a go, please? And she took my skull and all the apparatus I had, and I had to take a photo of her with her mum. I had a secret audience in front of me watching take these photos of these self-portraits, but I had to then take a picture of this woman and her mum with all my apparatus.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. I will say, Mings, and it is connected to John, late John Dixon, as you guys know. Quite a close friend of mine's, guy who started me in photography. But this is hilarious because I was doing portraits at the time. I was trying portraits, and we went to John's bowling club. He's one of the treasurers of the bowling club. So we took the hall out. Obviously, he's got the hall, bowling hall, to do the portraits. And there was this girl who I worked beside who asked if I could do portraits. I went, yeah, sure. And I asked her, was it okay as if somebody else does them too, because we're getting a hall, so we can get the lights in, etc., and all that kind of thing. She's great. Now she was about, I don't know, late 20s over, really nice, attractive blonde woman, and she wanted to like some corporate shots, like obviously heads and shoulders, and also body shots, sitting on a chair, etc. So anyway, John and I were just kind of, like Jan says, not using a tripod. We're just doing it by hand. And John at the time had a dodgy knee. If I remember right, the floor was it just been waxed, so it was very slippy, the floor. So both of us are like, I was in my 40s then, mid 40s, and John, of course, was about 70 something or 60, late 60s. So we're this girl kind of like looking down at us while we were taking pictures. And next minute, John falls with his dodgy knee, and so I went down to help him up. And as I tried to help him, I go flying because the floor's slippy. So both of us are sitting down there. She's looking down at us like that. And we're like, trying to laugh at you, and she's not getting the funny side. She's just looking at us going. And I said, John, you okay? So, pardon me, we'll have to get ourselves back up again. Anyway, she didn't laugh. She just looked at us. There was no expression like, you okay? Nothing. In disgust. And she's, well, are you finished yet? I went, Johnny, you up? I'm actually getting myself up at the same time. So anyway, both of us are up, and we compose ourselves, and we start taking the pictures again. Next minute, she gets her iPhone, and because she was really pissed off, she started taking pictures of herself with her iPhone. So if that's not degrading, as well as being lying on the floor, one middle-aged guy and one older guy on the floor trying to help each other up, taking a picture of a beautiful girl. But someone to them taking a picture of themselves with their own iPhone, just to prove a point, then that's probably one of the lowest points in my photography life, doing what I've done. So that was a great time. I mean, John, obviously I miss him, but that was my fun moment. And it's one of the reasons why I brought up that conversation, I think. But yeah, I think we've got some crackers. I think Jan's one tops the bill. If we want to put like kind of a little jingle there, which doesn't work. Try a jingle again. Does it work? You hear that? No.
Nope.
This is a David Brent moment.
No, I didn't do that.
You hear that?
Aye.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do that.
That's a, oh no, I didn't do that kind of moment. It's not going, not going well, is it? I like cheesiness, that's quite funny. So, you hear that? Oh, right.
Yes.
I didn't realise. Anyway, like a bit of Christmas music.
Guidance you discuss.
That's not working, is it?
It's, aye.
Can you hear that?
Mhm.
You know, I'm going at this point, I'm going to be pausing this. You know that. Let's try this one.
It's still saying recording.
Is it? Well, that. Right. Anyway, that's that. So, guys, it's been a great kind of experimental moment there. So, guys, thanks for watching Clickcast. I think we've been on long enough, boring you and entertaining you, I hope, and also getting some kind of maybe just a bit of an insight of photography in the 21st century as regards we're talking about, you know, the future of photography. So we will be interviewing. Next person we've got will be Mark Newton from the School of Photography, and Brian on the left bottom of his screen will be interviewing him.
Yeah.
Glads and Jan, are you okay to meet up next Tuesday? You want to come on?
Next day, yeah, I should
Mhm.
be fine.
Great. Well, so there's going to be 4 of us. There'll be 5 of us all together. So that's probably the most of us we've had on Clickcast. It's always been free and what the +1. So that's going to be good. So it'll keep the conversation going. Mark Newton, yeah, very nice guy. You know, Brian. I think Brian. You've been in contact. You know this guy, don't you? You've been in
Oh
contact.
yeah, I
with
have
him.
been. And the good thing for me, difference, he's interviewed me twice on YouTube,
Really?
so now it's my turn.
Oh, there we go then. No one's interviewed me yet. Anyway, I wouldn't. I don't want to go there. So, guys, thanks for coming on, Jan, Glads, and Brian. It's been Christmassy tonight, and I'm sure by the next time they guys come on, they'll have some crumble decorations up.
2 weeks before.
You can see the
2 weeks
tumbleweed going
before.
past there. Anyway, it's been great, guys, and thanks for watching Clickcast. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next week at the same time at 6 o'clock on Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
On Quickcast, we'll brighten up your day.